be a brief overview. You might want to flow it if I would like to. Then the T debate, the counterplan, regionalism, and then the an independent voter on the topicality debate, but he also provides you voters on the severance debate as well as the year debate on the conditionality debate. He never prioritizes any of these for you in the round, which means that you don't know at the end of the day which independent voter comes first. At that point, you mean you should look at the substantive debate that occurs on the case debate, but we'll answer the theory proper when we get there on the topicality debate. Off his independent voter, you can grant his I mean is topical, but that's fine. Let's look at the solvency mixing burdens argument. He says that this is mixing burdens and it indicates in the plan. However, mixing burdens or looking at the solvency in this instance is key to determine whether or not the case is indeed topical. If we are just allowed to randomly say inside the plan text that I am this assistance, but then do every other form of assistance in the case debate, it is essential that we are allowed to look at the solvency debate or other advocacies within the text of the affirmative in order to determine if he is actually just doing this type of assistance or just asserting the random word into the plan text. Additionally, this is key to negative ground because it allows me to generate the offense. I have to look somewhere in the case when there's literally no coherent story told on the T debate or told on the case debate about which type of assistance you are. Additionally, absent any type of prioritization, you don't know where this independent voter functions in the round. He also doesn't tell you how this implicates with the standards debate or the voters debate, which means that absent the point there's any of that analysis, there's no reason why you vote on the independent voter. Off the AU. Off the current debate. He says that severance is good because it allows for him to remove all of the time and that it's not competitive, but additionally this is non-functional in a world where he is not going to be losing out on any of the time debate. Additionally, at the point where I spend all of the time there, then the severance argument about the time equivalence doesn't matter. Additionally, he says that the firm is key to defend against the 1NC, but this is not important at the point where you can still defend the extension of the case. The competitive competition of the counterclaim is important to test whether or not the affirmative is the actual best solvency mechanism for the case. You can extend the warrants that were originally provided in the 1NC that indicate that a counterclaim is the only way to determine whether or not the U.S. is the boss policy actor to use in this situation, which means that the permutation is necessary in order to prove that there's no competition, that the United States is the best actor. But additionally, he says that the firm is key to protect against the defense that occurs on the case debate. However, the firm is also an essential tool for the negative, and the counterclaim is an essential tool for the negative in order to get traction to the inroads of the case debate. Absent any type of counterclaim ground, there's no reason why the affirmative wouldn't just run the most abusive plans in the world saying solve for global peace, because there's maybe no way for the negative to gain any traction in arguments such as this. Additionally, there's also no voter. You can cross-apply the topicality overview that says that there's no prioritization of this voter. He also gives you no independent reason why you ever vote on the arguments on the theory for the severance code. Additionally, off the perm proper. The perm proper is always going to bite into the disad because it is going to still use the U.S. action, which will fracture regionalism. We will handle the regionalism today better on the actual disad. Additionally, at the bottom, he says that the United States policy action is internal to the actual system working of these condom marketings that Uganda approves this. However, if this is true, he also says under this argument that the United States will just continue to push its evangelical way into Uganda as well as the other countries of the Great Horn of Africa. This is extremely important because if this is true, that means he literally gets zero solvency for any of the Scanlon evidence because the United States will still continue to push through its initiatives. He never indicates in either the Roberts 2007 evidence or the Scanlon evidence, which he cross-applies, that the Ugandan condom programs as well as these programs are the key to stop evangelical policy in the United States, which means absent any of that analysis, there's no reason why he's ever going to be able to prevent the fracture of regionalism inside Africa when Uganda as his own or when the United States per his own response on the regionalism debate as well as the AU counterclaim proved that the United States is going to push its evangelical initiatives through in Africa no matter what. Additionally, he says that there's no competition for the counterclaim because it doesn't solve. This is where he also cross-applies the Sickland evidence. You can cross-apply my analysis about how the Sickland evidence doesn't indicate that we have to solve for the entirety of the crisis in order to solve for evangelicalism, which means that there's literally no reason why solving for the condoms is going to be the reason that is going to get access to the Sickland evidence. He also says that there's a solvency evidence because market programs are the best and there's no specific evidence. However, the regionalism debate indicates that the regional programs are the most preferable option inside the region, which means at the point where I provide you evidence that is specific about how African regional organizations can actually solve for the AIDS crisis better, then it doesn't matter what type of program they're using. The marketing assistance programs that he talks about will still just be used inside the Greater Horn of Africa because Africa's never had one. It would be impossible to have solvency evidence additionally off the theory debate for condo. He says that this is key to reciprocity because I would always take out of it. I haven't. I told you that it was conditional. However, he never gives you any independent reason as to why you would ever look to the conditionality debate if I actually go for it, which means at the point where I'm keeping this position alive, there's no link to any of his offense on the conditionality. But additionally, he says that it justifies four perms. However, this contradicts with his severance arguments at the top of the permutation debate, which means that there's literally going to be no way for him to access either of these. He says this is about competitive equity debate, but never explains why his competitive equity has been tarnished at all. If he still had all of the inroads inroads into the counterplan as well as all of the inroads into the regionalism it has had. Additionally, you can cross-slide the overview about how there's no independent voter or where this is prioritized, which means you don't know how to vote on this. He says the United States has, on regionalism, he says the United States has given the assistance already. However, Africa is committed to promoting regionalism. Since March 3rd, 2008, a new generation of Africans who saw the disastrously game played by new colonialism at the expense of Africa are now empowered. These new leaders understand what is needed is united Africa in their vision, united not just on paper and through institutions, but through our fraternal bonds as Africans, though our cultural unity as a people and our political unity as a continent. This means that there is still going to be a great deal of uniqueness for the disadvantaged. Additionally, off the link turn, he says that the evangelicals will push forward the Robert evidence indicates this. You can cross-apply my analysis from the counterplan, which means that we are still going to be seeing this post-plan, which takes out all of his solvency for the case debate. Additionally, this is also not going to actually serve as a link turn because it still says that the regional institutions will be fractured. This may serve as a conflated non-unique, but it doesn't actually take out the link, which says that the Colgan evidence says that the selectivity will always cause these problems to occur. He is not responsive to the impact level, which means at the point where I'm getting access to it through the Theo debate, the nuclear war that is going to occur as a result will always outweigh, because it doesn't matter if we give condoms to people that are dead. You're never going to stop the AIDS prevention. This means we outweigh in terms of magnitude as well as irreversibility, because the scope of the problem is much worse. The only card I want on the case debate is the USAID card, which says that they only give U.S. condoms. He says that this is removed when the plan happens, but he never explains how this is occurring. This means that there's going to be a lesser number of U.S. condoms available. That means that there's no way that he can ever export all of the necessary condoms, and the case doesn't solve.